Hello, everybody. All right. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for dressing up for this. Okay, it's going to be a fun night. Josiah and Hezi, I want to start off by thanking them. Josiah, Hezi, when you performed at the chapel talk in the chapel, more than half the kids in the chapel covered their ears. Not because it was bad, but because it was loud. It was loud, and it was in your face, and it was such a fun way to take on a formal event. Before I even got the gig to speak here tonight, I called dibs on these guys. Thank you guys for adding some flair to our school culture. I also want to thank Will Dorr and Brian Coughlin, two people in this community who genuinely value all of you guys, who love their jobs and who serve whenever and wherever they can. Will and Brian, thank you so much for helping us out tonight. The Rev. Cam Hardy, I told her, please don't let me break tradition by doing this in the theater, and she immediately assured me that this was the best way to tell my story. Thank you, Rev, for making this entire process so comfortable and easy. And Maddie O'Brien, sometimes but rarely, when you meet someone for the first time and within 2 minutes of talking, you feel like you've known them for years. And that definitely goes for Maddie. Maddie is so down to earth that when I introduced myself, I accidentally introduced myself as Eric after we had first met. I had to quickly change that. We held back a few tears in planning this. Maddie, you understand the assignment. Thank you for your words, and thank you for having my back tonight. All right, so that was just a thank you portion of this talk tonight, and I haven't even told you my name tonight. So you might want to get comfortable. I want to first start off by talking about tonight's song choice. Take a sad song and make it better was my senior quote, and it was my mantra through high school, the lowest point of my life. As you will hear, I was given a second chance when I needed it the most, and I have carried that line with me as a guiding principle ever since. Take the sad, the mundane, and the boring, and make something out of it instead. Tonight, I'm going to tell you my story. Not because it is easy or comfortable, but because I know it will help someone. Tonight, if you'll allow me, I'm going to do something that's very difficult for people to do, especially the young men in this audience. I'm going to be vulnerable. I simply cannot tell my story without digging up some trauma along the way, and I'm taking all you with me. Don't worry, we're keeping it PG. But much of what you will hear tonight has only been shared with my closest family and friends. So, for many of these stories, I would like to keep them here, in this space, and this time, and nowhere else. That includes you, random guy who's watching this on YouTube, on Millbrook's YouTube channel. This stays between us. And I'm doing this uncomfortable thing, not for me, but for any person in this room, young or old, who wants permission to be vulnerable too. Again, I haven't even said my name yet, so, all right. My name is Eric Kennedy. I run student activities here at Millbrook. I am a proud farmhouse dorm parent. Nothing. Come on, you guys got to bring it tonight. And I am taking a break from collecting your phones to officially ring in the Chapel Talk season here at Millbrook School. In this room today, we have 125 new students, 17 new faculty. That means over a third of you have never experienced a Chapel Talk here at Millbrook before. So before we begin, I got to clear up a few things. So number one, this is not normal. No, we usually have it in the chapel, the actual chapel. But I worry about the fire code in the chapel because I'm definitely bringing the heat tonight. Secondly, if I see you scrolling through your Apple Watch tonight, I'm taking it. Yeah. You can pick it up at 3:15 in the Student Life office tomorrow. Yes, this is going to take a few minutes. So throughout the night, there will be visuals that are meant to keep your attention. Thank you, Mr. Tukey, for that. There's also some surprises along the way. Oh no. I ruined my Rickroll, guys. Let's just enjoy it. There we go. I ruined it. There we go. All right. At least nobody else can see this on YouTube. Okay. So, for those of you who already know me beyond the surface level, you probably know one thing about me, and that is I love this job. I love running student activities. I love winning winter weekend. I love being a dorm parent, and I love taking fun seriously. I believe that I have the best job on campus besides the attendance stuff. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are plenty of difficult conversations. There are activities that absolutely crash and burn. That's the biggest laugh of the night? Jeez. There are days when I feel both simultaneously burnt out and like I'm not doing enough. But this is an incredible opportunity. This is an incredible community, and my life experience reminds me of that every single day. I feel safe here. I feel seen here. I feel included here. And that is not guaranteed for everyone, everywhere. It certainly was not the case for me. So tonight, I want to share with you why I love this job so much, why I feel so comfortable being weird, and why being a part of this community is one hell of a privilege. So, it begins with planting seeds. Millbrook reminds me so much of my small, rural college town with nothing to do unless you made your own fun. Most people left on the weekends, and there wasn't much of a culture. When I came in, on day one, I straight up cried myself to sleep. That is an absolute fact. I cried on the first night of college. I was afraid to be left alone. I knew that if I wanted this experience to matter, I needed to plant seeds where I could. Say hi to the random guy who sits outside your apartment playing guitar. Say yes when there's a campus-wide game of tag, even though you'll probably look stupid doing it. Play the board game even though you don't know the rules. By my second year in college, I noticed that some of those seeds I planted in the previous year were starting to blossom. And a weird little friend group was born. Within that friend group, we found ways to have our own fun, stranded on a tiny rural campus in the middle of nowhere. We laughed together. We cried together. We pranked each other. Don't worry, we cleaned everything up. We spent late nights sitting around the kitchen floor sharing stories and talking about our futures. And then we adapted when that same kitchen floor became lava. We played music together. We forgot to take out recycling together, which then became its own art project that kept growing and growing and growing. We turned my main apartment wall into a collage of our favorite photos, album covers, and posters, which looked even better at night. We held debates over serious issues with judges and moderators, played by our friends, like which decade of music was the best. And it was the 60s, by the way. I won that debate. We held an open casket funeral for our fish. He lived for 3 days. And we held an open casket funeral for him. We took our boring environment and we made something out of it. We refused to listen to a sad song on repeat when we could simply change the key and make it more interesting. One Saturday morning, with nothing better to do, my best friend and I decided to put on some white t-shirts, write the word life in all caps, and hand out lemons to strangers to see how they would react. Because when life hands you lemons... Okay. You guys understood that better than most people we came into contact with that day. Most people blew us off. They did not understand why two strangers were wearing life shirts and handing out lemons. It seemed like a trap. Some people understood the joke, and we started talking to them. Some people even asked for pictures. It was one of many examples of us realizing how fleeting this time in our lives would be and how planting seeds were paying off. And at that point, I had never been happier. But we have to take a step back in order to understand why that period in my life was so crucial for me, it's important to understand the years leading up to it. Most of my middle and high school years were spent in hiding, not physically hiding. I usually was physically present when I needed to be somewhere. Instead, I hid parts of myself and my life and my feelings due to shame, embarrassment, and in some cases, survival. Those 4 incredible years at college were preceded by years of uncertainty, which would take me years to understand and unpack, and that journey still continues today. I was raised by a single mom who did her best, but ultimately fell victim to drug abuse, which led to other problems as a result. When I began middle school, I knew that my situation was different. Instead of confronting it, I learned how to hide. And when I went to school, I pretended that everything was okay. I hid the fact that we were poor. I hid the fact that my dad refused to be a part of my life. I hid the fact that I did not have a bed or a room. I slept on a small couch in a tiny, cramped, smoke-filled apartment. I hid the fact that I lived in a hoarder's home, our floors covered with trash, mail, and urine stains from the dogs. I hid the fact that we were evicted more than once. I hid the fact that we never even acknowledged Christmas. I hid my compulsive tics and other obsessive impulses due to anxiety and undiagnosed OCD. I hid the fact that school was the only place where I was guaranteed food. I hid my body dysmorphia, which led to eating disorders, which led to an overall decline in health, both physical and mental. And I hid my bisexuality, not only from others, but from myself, refusing to even acknowledge and accept it until I was 28 years old. It should not have taken that long. Like I said, we're being vulnerable tonight. Now, I got through high school, barely. I missed a ton of classes my final 2 years. I missed my prom, not because I didn't want to go, but because I could not afford it. And my mom's habits had become worse. She had stolen graduation money from me, taking out the cash from each card and then throwing those cards away, hoping that I would never see them. She stole my wallet, which I didn't find until a couple of years later when she fled the state. It was under her mattress. She would later be thrown in jail for theft and writing fake prescriptions. That was my one provider and protector. And she failed to provide for and protect me. At 18, I graduated high school, and I understood the reality of my situation. I was stuck. I was going nowhere. I took out some loans, and I went to community college in my local town, failing every single class that first semester and dropping out before the second semester even began. I, at the age of 19, was at my rock bottom. But one of those seeds that I had planted just years before had actually become my life jacket. My best friend, Walter, despite my best efforts to mask my reality, could see that something was wrong. And so did his family, the Kennedys. Because I was actually seen for the first time in my life, the Kennedys took me in at my lowest point and not only gave me a second chance, but gave me a family for the first time in my life. For the first time in my life, at the age of 19, I had my own bed and my own room and a door that I could close whenever I needed to. For the first time in my life, at the age of 19, I got to eat breakfast every day. For the first time in my life, at the age of 19, I felt safe. And I felt seen. And I feel that at Millbrook too. I started taking better care of myself. I began running and still run to this day. And I made sure that I wasn't going to waste this opportunity. That's why, when I got the chance to go to college, and I never thought I would, and because of what the Kennedys did and their willingness to give a broken and fragile young man a shot, I was not going to waste it. I was going to put in the work, say yes to more opportunities, and plant some seeds along the way. Listen, there are like 5 more parts, so I'm just going to wrap this up real quick. So before I do, I want to take you back to this day, right here, when we handed out lemons to strangers. 12 years later, I can tell you every single detail of that day. I chose to have a new experience. I chose to say yes to a stupid, yet harmless, yet somewhat charming idea. And one person chose to ask for a picture. And a couple of days later, that same person would cross our paths again and recognize us. And she said, "Hey, you're the lemon guys." And she showed us this picture. Within hours, we were all close friends. She was immediately a part of our friend group. That lemon resulted in a friendship, which grew into a relationship, which grew into a marriage, which brought us Jude Walter Kennedy just 5 years later. Now, I could give an entire chapel talk alone on this boy. But I'm going to save that for another Thursday. Kelsey and I turned that lemon seed into a family. All because I chose to do something with my boredom on a random Saturday morning. I would not have any of this if I had not planted that seed. Now, over the years, Kelsey and I have grown a lot, both together and apart. Even more so apart. For those of you with parents who are separated, I'm sure you understand how that dynamic can take a toll on everyone involved. I'm sure you've probably experienced fights that you did not want to hear or be in the middle of. I get it. We both get it. I can confidently stand here today and say that Kelsey and I, as a team, are stronger now than we have ever been. Because we put in the work, because we lean into the difficult conversations, because we make sure that only one person comes before anything, and that is Jude. A boy who will never know what it is like to have parents who do not see you. So that's my story. You got a sneak peek into my invisible backpack, and it's only a sample. And I'm sharing this tonight to remind you of how incredible this opportunity is. It is easy to take it for granted, and you have so many experiences and friendships and relationships and lessons learned and lifelong memories ahead of you, but only if you take that first step and plant that seed. Say yes to the opportunity, do something different, share the concern, and don't complain about the garden when you're not planting a seed yourself. I am so excited to see what you all can do this year and in the years to come, but it is your song. Don't just make it good, make it great. Thank you.